Hello, and welcome to another episode of Now Who Would Have Thought? There is a gravestone in West Brookfield Cemetery in Massillon, Ohio. 250 years ago, our forefathers were engaged in a great uncivil war. When young William Evans was summoned to duty in the Army, his brother John could not stand the thought of being separated. They enlisted together, were assigned to Company K, Pennsylvania Volunteers Cavalry. Johnny was made a messenger because he was a splendid horseman. The historians of the Battle of Gettysburg have paid glowing tribute to the daring messenger, who dashed back and forth to and from the headquarters, through a hail of musket fire and sustained barrages of cannon fire. Then, on one trip back to command headquarters, during a momentary lull in the battle, Johnny, the hard-riding messenger, saw several members of the company huddled around a fallen comrade. With the sixth sense that brothers sometimes have, Johnny knew before he dismounted that the fallen man bleeding there on the ground was his brother Bill. Johnny did not weep. It's important that you remember this. Though others did, brother Johnny dared not cry. Instead, he grabbed his brother's musket from the fallen hands and plunged its bayonet into the blood-stained mud to mark that place. Moments later, as the fighting resumed, Johnny, still dry-eyed, grabbed a saber. No longer messenger, now he must replace his fallen brother in the front lines. Still dry-eyed, but venting his agonizing grief by swinging that saber with all of his might, Johnny strode forth into the fray. That night, when the company reconnoitered, Johnny tried with his cap to conceal the gash across his forehead. A constant trickle of blood betrayed the wound, a deep gash inflicted by an enemy saber. Johnny, despite vigorous protests, was removed to a field hospital. Then and there it was decided promptly that Johnny Evans would recover from the wound, but would never fight again. After serving 18 months in the front lines, Johnny returned to Danville, Ohio to live out his years. He is buried under that gravestone in the cemetery west of Massillon. Johnny Evans, who did not have to go to war but chose to, who refused to be separated from the brother he loved. Johnny Evans, who spent 18 months in the front line of that war between the states just to stay beside his brother William, was not his brother at all. Johnny Evans, the greatest horseman in Pennsylvania Volunteers, was no horseman either. For what they discovered in a field hospital on the fringe of the bloody fighting at Gettysburg was the reason Johnny had not dared to cry. That Johnny, to whom death was less bitter than separation, that Johnny Evans was actually Mary Owens, not Bill's brother at all, but it was his sweetheart. Now who would have thought? This is Chris McCrae. Take care of yourselves and the ones you love most.